Phenomena. Phenomena. Phenomena.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls,
children of most ages.
Most ages, I mean, just to be safe, welcome back to the world's 259th. Yeah, we stayed in the same spot. Most popular podcast in the world. And the hashtag best new podcast of 2019. I'm really throwing Scott off here. He's just ready to say, "Don't be so brewed."
Just say it,
Ready?
man.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Don't Be So Brewed. Luckily, Zul and I didn't crack open our beers yet. Scott had a little premature beer opening action. That's okay.
It happens.
It does happen sometimes. So I wanted to try something new.
Uh-oh.
I want to let people
Ruh-roh.
know. The way I described this the other day, I think was perfect. A lot of people ask what our podcast is about. I think one of the most common things is, is it just about beer? And I'm like, it's actually not. The way I would describe it, especially if you're someone that's new and you're just jumping in, is be prepared to strap yourself into a roller coaster. Meaning, we're going to have highs, we're going to have lows. And this is one of those that's indoors. We have no idea where it's going to go. Yep. We have no idea where this thing's going to go. Listen. We do, but we sort of don't. When we bring guests on and whenever we have people in here, usually the first thing that I see is they're pretty shocked by the setup that we have. Mm-hmm. We're very lucky that we have some people who take really good care of us.
We do.
And so our setup for our podcast, I think our production is pretty damn good. And so I think when they show up, they're like, oh, I'm just going to come. It's going to be this thing. And it's like, oh, damn, there's lights. We now actually have a TV so we can see ourselves. I can see myself right now.
We've got lights, we've got camera, and we have action.
You beautiful sons of bitches. They don't know if I'm talking to them. They don't know what we're talking about. But I just thought it was an interesting description of just like, it kind of is like a roller coaster.
We just kind of let it flow.
In the dark.
I mean, people ask me how we started this, and I said, Dr. Brown and I, we'd kind of just hang out in his office and we'd shoot the shit, and it was like, some of this stuff's pretty funny. We should record this. To which he was like, we should start a podcast. And I'm like, yes, let's do a podcast, right? We didn't know what the heck we were doing. But things just flow. I mean, whatever's happening that day, whatever happened yesterday, and, folks always have a story to relate. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what we're trying to extract. I mean, figure out relatable stories, share those stories over a brewed beverage, distilled beverage, beverage
coffee,
in general.
Beer.
Just some time to hang out.
Yeah. And I think you definitely nailed it, and that's, self-proclaimed. We think that we're pretty funny, so if we can make you laugh when you come listen to the show, if we can, either get you to agree with us because of one of our opinions on something that people don't want to talk about, or if you're upset with us on an opinion that we have.
We were talking about junior mints 3 to 4 episodes ago. We would have never been able to plan that.
No. Never would have been. We would not be able to plan the fact that our logo has a corn dog in it because on our very first episode, we both had a corn dog story.
Yep.
It's just one of those things. I mean, besides the fact, I just want to mention this. I never mention it, and now that I have a TV, I can point. Does anyone else? I mean, I love our producers in their house, and their stuff is beautiful. Does anyone else notice the penis-shaped vase that sits behind me on every single episode? Because if you don't watch on YouTube, you can now. And I'm going to now ruin this for you that every single time you watch this, that is all you're going to see. Is that thing sitting behind my head in the background. See? And I didn't know that's where I was going to go. But now because we have a TV and I can see myself, I was thinking, I always want to bring that up. But it's always just hanging out behind me. We always talk about letting it hang there.
Yeah, letting it hang out.
It's always just hanging out behind me. But I just wanted to start a little bit different of an episode, kind of let people know what they're in for.
This is kind of a very significant episode. This is episode 20.
Mm-hmm. We were over the hump for a while. I think there was some statistic about.
This is like the 5-month mark.
Is it?
Yeah, 4 episodes a month.
You're right.
Consistently, every week.
Mm-hmm.
We get together, whether it be with ourselves, our guest today, Casper, or some guests.
Casper, you'll have to lean into the mic a little bit. People can't hear you there.
Seriously, man, come on.
For those of you who don't get the joke because you're not watching, we don't have a guest today. It's just Scott and I.
It's old school.
It's old school. We're doing a throwback here. It's just us. We've, of course, got Zul here for some comedy relief, so don't worry. He's waving at you.
There is relief.
There is some relief here to help you guys have a break from just Scott and I, because I know
It's a
how
lot
that can be from time to time.
We can be a lot to handle.
As my wife would say. I don't know about yours.
I don't know how she would know that about me. But hey, if she told you, that's cool.
God. That wasn't supposed to be brought up on the podcast. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, guys. But no, I just thought... Of course you're not kidding. I thought actually the first thing that we could talk about is just let people behind the curtain a little bit about podcasting. I think a lot of people...
A lot of people are curious about it.
Yeah, and I think the most surprising thing is that people are surprised that we're still doing it. Like, it's still going.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's probably the most popular thing I get asked about now. It used to be like, hey, how's business going? And that's still a question that eventually comes up. But I think this has kind of taken that over, and people are like, how's the podcast? How's that going? You know, what's going on with this? Or they ask a question, or they're like, hey, I was curious about this, but I haven't checked out an episode yet. And I think it would be, like I said, kind of cool to show them a little bit behind the curtain. You know, everybody's got their way of doing things. We've seen a couple other people's podcasts and how they produce them and the way that it goes. And we were even talking about this a couple times about, like, where do we want this thing to go? What does it look like? What kind of podcast do we want to have? Do we want to interview people? Do we want it to be just about us? Which
we just want to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, for me, this is like 1 hour or so out of the week I get to decompress. Zool will not let me really get on my cell phone. I mean, this is my stress relief.
No conference calls.
No conference calls. No. The only thing I'm allowed to do is search up my dad jokes on the phone. That's about it. But it's kind of nice. I mean, I'm not taking calls. I mean, for an hour, we get to just kind of sit down, shoot the shit, have a conversation.
Yeah, and that's the part that I love. And we also get to know someone.
It.
Yeah, and there's a document of that. We get to, I mean, as people who, you know, own our own businesses and we go out and you meet people all the time, I think it gives you the ability almost to, like, sharpen that a little bit of, like, I'm used to talking to people. You know, I'm getting ready. I'm doing, like, a trade with a patient of mine that's coming in, and I'm going to go he's got a radio show that we're doing, so we're running some ads. And, you know, he was like, hey, we want to have you out for your first, like, live. Can we do all this? And I was like, yeah. And his wife was asking me, she's like, are you nervous or anything like that? You know, sometimes she's like people, and I'm like, no. I'm like, first of all, everyone will tell you I talk to myself all the time because I'm basically talking to myself on my phone whenever I do my posts on social media. And I'm like, and I also do a podcast. So I'm used to kind of having to sit here and have a conversation and do that. It's not something that I ever thought I would be comfortable with. But I think the more that we've done this, the more comfortable I've been with, you know, going down this route. Like, it used to be like, oh man, we got to kind of get this thing ramped up, and what are we going to talk about and all this stuff. And now I think it's like we show up, we get everything set up, and we just kind of let it rip, and we see what happens.
Go with the flow.
Well, because it's like last week, I didn't know, you know, old Danny Cahill is the go-to expert on Bigfoot.
At least in the area. Yes.
Yeah.
He knows more than anybody else I know.
He's speaking at the convention. If you guys don't know that, he was like, oh yeah, he like dropped it to us Wednesday. We had the Wine and Friends event that I hold at the Wine Authority every third Wednesday of the month. Yeah, you guys can come to that. Cheap plug for that. Why not? It's good for the Wine Authority. It's good for me. But he comes there and he's telling us about that, and I'm talking to him, and he's like, yeah, you know, I'm speaking at the convention that he mentioned. And I'm like, no wonder you know so much about this. But I didn't know that that's what we were going to get. When Kyle came on, none of us knew the story. Yep. Most of the people didn't know the story. So a lot of our listeners go to the Wine Authority, and I know a lot of them are like, I didn't know that story about him, you know, free soloing up a mountain and jumping off and damn near killing himself, like crazy stuff. Stuff that you would never know, except for the fact that we have this good old thing here that we call the Don't Be So Brewed podcast.
Pulling the secrets out of everybody we talk to.
Listen, we try. So what would you say for you has been the easiest part of this, and then what has been the biggest struggle when it comes to doing the podcast?
I think the easiest part has just been doing it. You know, we're in a bit of a routine now. We know we're focused on it. I think the hardest part has been dialing in the scheduling, right? So, you know, we've got to factor in our producers' time and when we can get in with them. We've got to factor in our time, and we've got to factor in the guests that we have coming on for that particular episode. And that's it's not impossible, but it can be challenging. I'd say that probably the biggest challenge we've seen so far.
Yep, and that was going to be mine. I mean, I could pick another one, but that was definitely going to be one of mine. Is, you know, even today we were supposed to have a really special guest. He'll still come on at some point, but it's a friend of mine that lives in Fort Worth, and he had a flat tire, and life happens and stuff like that happens, and you know, I text Scott the situation. He calls me. We're kind of sitting there talking. We're brainstorming. By the time he calls me, I've already texted about 5 people, a couple that have already been on the show, a couple people we've been trying to get on the show. And I think that's ultimately the thing, is like scheduling guests. It's like we have a lot of people that we've talked to that are like, hey, I would love to be on it. But it's making that schedule work for everyone to be able to show up. And it's, you know, it's a couple, 15 minutes before, maybe a little bit of time after the drive to get here. I get it. All that stuff factors in. But I'm like, it's just an hour. We tend to be pretty flexible. Luckily, you know, Zool and his wife, they're pretty flexible with us with producing everything. But it's, like you said, it's making that schedule work. And I think that's the hardest thing for a lot of people, is being able to do that. But I think, you know, we have this commitment to what we think this thing can be. And so for me, it's not that we have already built this massive audience. You know, we're getting there and we're trying to build that up, and we always appreciate you guys sharing, liking, subscribing, all those things. Let's make sure we drop that in there. We're always appreciative.
What are they sharing, liking, and subscribing?
The Don't Be So Brewed podcast.
Don't Be So Brewed podcast Facebook page, Instagram page,
YouTube page, over on Apple iTunes, Spotify, wherever you guys get your podcasts. Go check us out. Leave us a rating.
Don't Be So Brewed, damn it. Go and do this.
Give us feedback. Connect us with businesses that you think it would be great for us to go do a live podcast at. We're actually getting ready to have our first one, so make sure you guys keep an eye out for that, because we're going to invite y'all to help us really promote that thing up and make it big.
We're not just going to be live. We're going to make it an event.
Yes, it's going to be awesome. It'll be a blast, and you guys will get to watch what this looks like, and we'll be like monkeys at the zoo. We'll be on display.
We'll even bring some of you on.
Perfect. I like that even better. We'll just have like little segments,
rolling
of each thing.
segments.
Like, here, I got an idea. We'll have a hat. We'll have topics that we think that we want to talk about or something like that.
It's gonna be
we'll pull it out. Who wants to talk about this?
Podcast Jeopardy.
Yep. Who wants to talk about?
I would like Junior Mints for $300, Alex.
I'll take foot stuff for $100. Foot stuff. Okay.
Ambient foot rubs for $100.
So I would definitely agree with you. I think the funnest thing is really the stress relief that this can be, and also just getting to know really cool stories about people that things that I didn't know. I think that's been one of the funnest things.
And getting opinions. Just kind of getting different points of view. Mm-hmm. You know, I always tell my closest friends, reevaluate your social circles every year, because if you have too many people all saying the same thing, it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't push you further. So reevaluating, I kind of look at it like a Venn diagram, where you got the 3 overlapping circles. You want to make sure that sucker's just kind of dialed in, and those people that are in that inner overlapping area are not just supporting you, but they're being honest with you, they're pushing you forward, and they're making you a better person.
Well, and I think that's how you have a good group around you, because like you said, you talk about that diagram with the you could have one that's like these two are like majorly overlapping. They're basically the same. It's not even 3 anymore. It's like these two, and this one's kind of like barely even in the equation anymore. And it's, we bring people on that don't necessarily share our opinions, and that's the point. We want to be able to have a discussion. I think the other thing is people get we'll use the term butthurt about it, where, we can't talk about that. We can't. You're supposed to leave those things out of conversations. I'm like, why can't we talk about it? Because if we don't talk about it, then the communication's not there.
Yeah.
I don't have to sit here and be like, because one of the things I've realized recently in doing this and in just connecting with people is I can figure out something that I have in common with someone and probably be a friend of someone, even if we don't agree on certain things. Mm-hmm. Like if I won't be quick to judge someone.
He eats his chicken pot pie upside down. That could be a deal breaker for most people.
I just like to ask those questions. I love how I'm always the one that gets lumped into like that's the decision. Like I'm the crazy guy that thinks Pop-Tarts are ravioli. I know I'm the guy that gets, because I bring the questions. I'm the one that gets it put on me. And listen, hey, I at the Wine Authority the other night. I think it was, I forget who it was. I was talking to somebody and I was telling them, I consider myself a professional pot stirrer. I like to stir the pot a little bit. And she was like, She was like, I don't like that. It makes it seem like you're trying to do it,
intentionally.
Yeah, like you're trying to instigate stuff. And she's like, no. She's like, you're trying to. The way that she said it was like, sounded real smart. She sounded real smart when she said it, and I'd had a couple. Smart? Yeah, I'd had a couple glasses of wine at that point, so I probably didn't sound smart. But she was like, you're just trying to get people to engage in conversations, and I'm like, it's true, because the questions that we joke about on here. When I'm hanging out with a group of friends, if I throw one of those questions in, it's like a conversation bomb that goes off and the room erupts with all these people wanting to share their stuff. And I'm like, because
it's relatable.
Yeah. And I think that's a.
So what kind of relatable stuff do we have to talk about today?
Okay. You want to get into
I want to get into this. I want to make it interesting.
You didn't want to talk about anything else with the podcast? You want to skip past that?
I think it's pretty cool. I mean, I think if people want to know more, they should message us and ask and tell us that they want us to cover some stuff, and we could cover it on future episodes.
This is going to be on Facebook or YouTube.
I just don't want to get like just kind of drawn out on.
All right.
You know what I mean? Let's give the people what they want.
Scott wants to make this one of those. This will be like a throwback. We're 20 in. It feels like so long ago since the Me and You episodes. Well,
we've had some great guests. We've some really great guests. We've had some really funny guests. We've had some really dry guests. We've had, episodes that did way better than we ever thought they would have done. Based on viewership and listenership. And
then episodes we thought.
And we've had some that we thought would kill it that didn't. And the reality is, the reality is we just don't know. And as people share and rate this stuff, it'll get a little bit more exposure and. It really benefits everybody. Everybody that's been on, people listen. I mean, it's all historically tracked and logged. And, when they find us, whether it's at episode 350, chances are they're going to go back and look through the episode titles and find the ones that are interesting to them and listen. And,
and we've had people connect to do business. When we had the elderberry syrup guru on here, a friend of mine in a networking group was asking about her. He wanted to get it connected with her because he's heard about elderberry syrup and he wanted to get some. And I'm like, or somebody comes on and they know, one of our guests a little bit better, but then they get to know them even more. Exactly. Like Kyle, I think it's one of those things where I didn't think that us just coming on here and talking to a microphone and goofing off could actually connect people.
No, it's connecting people. It's doing better for the community. I mean, it's really great all around. And we've got some really awesome things planned, really for the remainder of the year. We talked a couple episodes ago about random acts of brewedness, which will probably form into our foundation of some sort. And, there's already opportunity cropping up out there for ways that, we could help and engage, not just engage the community, but do great things for the community. Yeah, some fundraisers that we were talking about. I know you got asked to be a part of, and we're like, hey, we'd like to be a part of this too, and bring you guys in and get everyone involved. And I mean, big deals.
Yeah.
For sure.
Leverage what we're considering building this platform for something positive, not just us going on here and goofing all the time.
That's right.
Goofing's
a factor.
Yeah.
But,
Oh, it's always going to be a factor. It's always going to be one of those things. But I think one of the things that people like with us is they know what they get. There's no BS. There's none of that. Like, what you see is what you get with us. Pretty much everyone that I know well has been like, watching you is just kind of like hanging out with you. And I'm like, that's kind of exactly what it is. That's what we want. Our persona is really just who we are. We're not, trying to be some special radio personality or, Well, yeah, because Barney Stinson, when he came on, I remember when I had coffee with him, he was like, yeah, you're now a persona. You're now this character on a show. And I'm like, well, good thing I'm me. Still just me. Yeah, I'm like, because I don't want to have to try to fake that when I go out in public. So let's go ahead, since we talk about the fact that I like to, poke at things. Stir some pots. Did you... Well, first, let's just ask. If you were going to peel garlic, if you were going to make, let's say... video. Did you see it? Have you already seen this? I have seen it. Okay, it was going around. How would you peel it? Would you... So I'll explain what the video was. I'll tell you how I used to do it. But you would do it this way now? I would certainly try and see if it worked for me. Okay. It looked way fucking easier. It is. This video was kind of the same level of life-changing event as the banana video. How to peel the banana. So still from the stem. I don't care what people say. For years, like my entire life, garlic has been a challenge. Absolutely no question about it. So I'd usually kind of
take the clove and smash it up enough to get the pods out. And then I'd take a knife and I'd put it over the pod.
And you press it down?
I'd Hulk smash that bitch down.
Yeah.
And it would kind of crack up the
You take the outer
skin,
layers off,
you know, and then it would just kind of crumble off. It was still a mess. But that's how I would do it.
And you'd have garlic skins everywhere, as I call them.
Everywhere.
Yeah, I was pretty fascinated by this video. So basically what happens on the video is they take a
Clove of
garlic and they essentially stick a knife into the clove itself and then pry it off.
They just pull it out.
And it literally splits the skin. The piece of garlic comes out perfectly. And it's like that. Like butter. Just like boom, done.
It's amazing. And the garlic wasn't like pre-roasted or cooked or anything.
No,
I mean,
it was just raw garlic.
Just straight up raw clove, and they just took a knife. We'll have to link the video.
Yeah, we could put some.
I mean, it was unbelievable.
I thought it was pretty fascinating. We just recently got it back into the like buy it already minced up in a jar and all that stuff, which is also really nice.
Which I
just
like.
Take a spoon.
My wife won't let me buy it that way.
Why?
Just totally averse. And that used to be like a real big piece when I did cook regularly.
Yeah, man, garlic's the way
I'd take
to
a
go.
scoop of garlic, shove it in the pan, and yeah, Zul, he knows what's up.
He's got the industrial
That's not just
jar.
chopped. That's like chewed and spit back into the thing, you know?
Look at this jar.
But that's like
Look at this thing next to Scott's head.
I know. But next to my new fancy
This is
water
chopped.
bottle, it's
This
tiny.
is literally like as broken.
It's like
down.
mush. It's like horseradish.
Hopefully
almost.
nobody mistakes that for applesauce. They'd be in trouble. They'd be like, this applesauce tastes
There'll
weird.
be no mosquito bites, that's for sure.
Nobody's
Right?
giving them hugs.
Nope. That's a good way to keep people away.
Everyone. Mosquitoes and everyone else. So listen,
Well,
hey,
do
if
you
you
have
don't
some
like people, you're
odorant?
welcome. Yep.
Yeah, check that garlic video out.
I thought it was interesting.
I mean,
Listen,
it got me excited. I wanted to go buy some garlic cloves and go home and test it.
This was why I asked about the pot pie thing.
You know,
I'm
I've
waiting
seen,
for somebody
like-
to try it out.
Yeah, I've seen the banana video with how to properly open it. That was life-changing. Okay. And then I've seen a couple of things on like how to properly
love the way
slice
you
a
say
watermelon.
life-changing.
I mean,
Yes.
like impressive shit, man. Like,
Are you talking about the one where you rubber band it together? Have you seen that one?
no, I haven't.
Oh yeah.
Like, I just like this is why those food videos do so well and go viral. Like when they're preparing stuff and doing these different techniques, it's just.
Well, that's why we're
There's
going to
a
start
lot I don't
leveraging
know.
your laser stuff with etches to start doing
Yeah.
some cool videos because people are fascinated by that. There's something in your head about watching something from beginning
Creation
pieces to
to-
like this completion, and you're
People
like,
want to
"That's
see
cool."
stuff getting made. I mean, there's so many woodworking videos where they're super fast accelerated. They still take a couple of minutes to get through, but it's just like watching it come through. And like woodworking, something for me that I'm really not good at, right?
No.
And watching it and like not understanding exactly what's going on and starting to see it come together. And it's usually about 92% of the way through the video, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna be a chair. Or, oh, it's going to be a table.
You're like, what is
I had
this?
no
Or what-
idea,
yeah.
Whereas most woodworkers are probably sitting there like, yeah, it's going to be a table, 2% in, next video, Suckers like me, it's like,
It's
like
true.
drooling.
And
like,
that's the point. You look at
Can't
those
look
videos;
away.
they have millions of views. Like that's
Yeah.
how they get that. Is people are fascinated by that. We'll have to have people. If you're watching on YouTube or watching on Facebook, like, what's your favorite video? Like, what's the one that comes up and it's like that's the one that's in your Facebook rabbit hole that just keeps sucking you into the next video, and you're like,
I'll tell you, and I think I've played this for you and for Zool, the meaning of the word fuck.
oh yeah,
Right?
we watched
That's
that
a
one.
really
We
good
watched that one
video.
after one of our podcasts and just sat there watching it. Died laughing.
I don't know if
It's
the guy
hilarious.
is from India or Pakistan or country over there, but
Yeah.
he looks like a very old and religious individual, and he's talking about how the word fuck is the most dynamic word in the English language because it's a noun, a verb, an adjective. I mean, it could be used
It can be used for everything.
hundreds of different ways.
Hey Scott, real quick, will you give a shout out to our beer sponsor for this episode? I want to try something new. We're gonna tell you guys what beer we're drinking. What I would love for you guys to do is go over to whoever this is, go to their Facebook page, like it, and leave them a recommendation or a review that says, "Hey, the Don't Be So Brewed podcast told me to come check this out."
Yeah. Okay.
I kind of like this idea. This could be like, digitally through Facebook, we're going to do random acts of brewedness this way. So we're going to help get this business some traction.
Yep.
We're going to help get them some reviews, and you guys are going to tell them that the
So-
Don't Be So Brewed podcast sent us.
So much like all of you, we go to the beer store and we got to go pick out a beer. And if the guy behind the counter isn't telling us what's cool to buy, much like the rest of us, whether it's beer or wine, we're picking based off the coolest label that we find.
Yep.
Because,
part of it.
If it's a type of beer that we like and it's got a cool label, the reality is it must be good. I mean,
if it's local and if it's got a label, that's kind of...
I do a lot of product branding. I mean, labels work, right? Mm-hmm. So today we've got Independence Brewing Company out of Austin, Texas. We're drinking their Austin Amber Original Ale. And it's quite good.
I think it's really
good. I mean, it holds up.
It has good flavor for
to the label.
Yep.
I mean, if I gave that label out of all the other beers in the place, I'd probably give it a solid, 8.5, 9?
I'd give it an 8.
I mean, it's got some Screaming Eagle. I mean, there's like some Trans Am, undertones here.
I mean, listen, it's as American as it can get. It's like
is it a crow or is it a falcon? That's a crow. I mean, maybe these guys need to come on and tell us what the fuck kind of bird this is.
Whatever it is, I mean, listen,
it's making noise. I mean, you can see the little things coming out of its mouth.
It's like a flat
caw.
Yeah, it's a flat black.
Yeah, it's like a
which
matte,
is what grabbed our attention.
It's
like this matte black,
with this like cool red and
it's
gold
got the red. It's got this bird, whatever the hell it is. It says it's for independent thinkers and drinkers, which clearly we are. So we're like, this has got to be for us.
This is 6% alcohol by volume.
So make sure again, it's Independence Brewing Company or Co. Go check them out. Like their page. Share it around, whatever you want, but let them know that the Don't Be So Brewed podcast sent you. No, this is not our first sponsor. We're just trying something a little bit different here. Why not share the wealth?
This is good karma. This is pay it forward type stuff, people. They made a movie about this.
Yep.
So we want to see what happens. Social Experiment number 1, episode 20.
All right, Scott. So this is a little bit old news, but I'm interested to know what you think about this.
Okay.
So Justin Bieber wants to fight Tom Cruise.
Okay.
There's about a 35-year gap between the two of them, and he just randomly put it out on social media, like, "Hey, what?" Like,
did he say why?
No, there's no,
Why couldn't he fight someone like The Rock?
Well, size-wise, that just doesn't make sense. You talk about weight classes and trying to do all that, and listen, I get it.
Yeah.
The people, we've got that one listener that's out there is like, there ain't no weight classes on the street.
That's right. There ain't no weight classes on the street.
There's not. But when we're talking about this and they want to do something, and I think you said MMA, but I'm thinking like MMA, boxing, anything like that. I'm like, I get it.
So how does this work? He sends Tom a message and says, "This is your mission if you choose to accept it."
I mean, I guess my first question is
that's how you have to start, right?
Who do you pick in that fight? If those two are fighting, who do you pick?
I don't think anybody wins, man. I mean, that's just like the ref. That's not even good ratings. Heck, I can't even believe we're talking about this.
It's Celebrity
Deathmatch.
I don't
even want to promote it. Well, Celebrity Deathmatch was good.
Yeah. Hilarious.
I mean, they need to bring that back.
If you don't know what that is, you guys should look that up. We should.
When I was a young boy, they had Celebrity Deathmatch on television.
If somebody knows somebody that can do cartoon stuff like that now on a computer, I would love a Celebrity Deathmatch version of our podcast. Like, we send them the recorded version of this,
yes,
and they claymation make it or whatever it is. I would love to see
We could be
that.
the announcers.
Yes. So then my next question is, since Scott doesn't want to pick anyone in that fight and they don't really care, because I'm not going to say that I disagree.
The thing is, I don't really like either
it.
of them. I just, I hope it's a classic, Rocky 1 move where they knock each other out and they're both down for a while.
Well, that's Rocky 2, but...
Rocky 2. So just so we could have enough peace and quiet for at least a minute and a half while both those two are down. No? Wouldn't that be good?
I don't know about peace and quiet. I'm not saying that somebody's like mouthing off or something like that. It's
no,
just like, hey.
It's not like it is news. It's not fake news. It's just who cares news, right?
Well, because let's be honest, if you're going to do this, it's for the clout of what you're going to get. And then it's also, hey, can we get people to buy this on pay-per-view? And my first thought is there's not going to be many people that are going to buy that on pay-per-view.
Raise money for something positive.
Yeah.
Don't do this for just for the sake of doing it.
Now I'm kind of feeling a Don't Be So Brewed boxing match to, raise funds.
Yeah, we could. Boxing tournament.
Somebody's got one and they want us to come alongside them.
I'm in.
This is where ideas come from, people. That's also one of my favorite things about this podcast. I come up with the most random ideas sometimes, and then I'm like, well, luckily now these are saved on here. We can go back and we can watch them, and I can go, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Like when we had your buddy on here, Kenneth. Yeah, whenever he was on here, we probably came up with 100 t-shirt ideas.
Easily.
If you guys haven't checked out that episode was hilarious. Kenneth sounds exactly like Alex Jones. If you guys don't know who that is, you need to go listen because it could not be any better. It was requested that we do an inebriated podcast.
Really?
And I think he would be a great guest for a show like that.
He would be awesome.
He would be a fantastic.
We would have to do that on location somewhere.
Yes.
And we'd have to either Lyft or Uber around.
We could go to G&G.
We'll just go by whoever's stock is higher that day, right?
We talked about going to G&G. Somebody, Zach can get us the hookup. Guitars and Growlers, hook us up.
There too, yeah.
Yeah.
We could get that hooked
We could
up.
make that work. Okay, so my follow-up question then is, if you could get into, let's just say, a boxing match with a celebrity, who would it be? And then explain why. Like, is it because you don't like that celebrity, or is it because, hey, if I do this, I could potentially stand to get some popularity out of it?
Man, you'd have to go Sylvester Stallone.
You're going to fight Sylvester Stallone?
Well, if you could beat him.
He's so old.
I know.
But still in really good shape. He'd probably still whoop that ass. Leave you looking like Rocky, too.
Yeah, it might,
Like, what happened to
I
Scott?
might be able to come in like Ivan Drago, I mean, who the heck knows?
More like Butterbean.
Butterbean. I mean, I was going to go with Mini-Me first, but he's already dead, so...
Yeah, Butterbean's big. Scott's not that big. He wishes.
Who would you fight?
I mean, that's a good question, because
Because you asked it.
yeah.
It's a good question I asked, but I don't have an answer exactly.
It's not why I meant that, but I mean, it is true. No, it's a good question because, you think of, like we were talking about, there's got to be weight classes and there's got to be all this,
Fuck
and
weight
you'd prefer
classes.
that. You're saying F that.
Yeah, screw that. I don't even care if it's a kid. Like,
Wow,
who do you want?
that's really aggressive. That's really aggressive. So the original one that came to my head was the kid who played Joffrey on Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Because he's such a little shit and nobody likes him.
Okay.
Even though he's the thing is maybe we should switch it to like what character in a TV show or in a movie would you like to fight? Because what happens is that guy's not actually that guy in real life.
How about like Ralph Macchio, Karate Kid, or the bad kid in Karate Kid? Take either of them.
Oh, Cobra Kai? You want to fight the...
You want to go with the Blondie?
Is it Billy Zane? Billy Zabka? Billy Zabka, I think is what it is. Can't remember. Somebody else.
Go big or go home. Fuck, let's just take Justin Bieber and Tom Cruise. We'll do a tag team death match.
Sweet. Who do you want?
No.
I'm going to take Justin Bieber.
No, I'm saying we go the Don't Be So Brewed podcast versus
That's
Bieber
what I'm saying.
and
I'll
Cruise.
take Bieber. You take Cruise.
We'll just kill them both.
We'll just take them both out.
We'll take them both out. You heard it here first, people.
We're going to put some... Like they
The odds are good.
Like they
Ask
used to call
Vegas.
the pink sheets on
We don't
it.
make
We're
this
gonna
shit up.
we're gonna put some bets on this, which he would never do because he'd be like,
Vegas odds.
that's a terrible idea.
Vegas
And I'm gonna be
odds.
like, listen, you lose, Justin Bieber. I get a piece of that, ridiculous fortune that you have from all the crap
You're gonna put
that
up
you
your.
sold
You're
when
gonna
you
do
were
pink
the
slips. You're
Biebs.
gonna put up your Lamborghini. I'm gonna put up my '99 Toyota Avalon, and we're just gonna see where this goes.
You're like, we're just gonna see what happens if we do this. So, anyways, we'll see. I'm interested to see if anyone else has one. I know. I'm trying to remember. A friend of mine doesn't like David Schwimmer from Friends.
But I think he'd be easy to beat up.
But what if he isn't? What if he's like a train? What if it's like legit?
Then you'd get labeled like pussy for life.
Or let's ask this: what action star?
Soon.
What action star would you be willing to fight? Like we're talking action star in that movie. Like they're usually indestructible at that point. They can pretty much do anything and take any level.
I'll tell you what'd be fun. You've seen Idiocracy, right?
Yes.
I would love to be in rehabilitation. Would that
Thank
not
you
be
for not
fun as
answering
shit?
the question. I want to see a movie from an action star from a movie. Who are you going to take?
I have no idea.
Hulk Smash.
Hulk Smash.
Yeah, he's
Bruce
technically...
Banner, before I piss him off, I'll take him out before he turns into the Hulk.
See, there you go. Good idea. Can you beat him up before he turns into the Hulk? Because then you're
Probably,
screwed.
because then I'm going to be running like a
Or
little
can you
bitch.
hope that he doesn't...
Like, ah!
Or then can you hope that he doesn't want to
He'll be like, is Zimmy running from the Hulk, or did he see a spider?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
You just see Zimmy with his Hulk smash, Hulk... He's just screaming it the entire time. Why is he doing that? Well, he made a bad choice. All right. I wanted to ask this question last week.
Uh-oh.
We didn't get to get into it.
All right.
I kind of wish Daniel was here for it.
Damn, is it a Bigfoot question?
No.
Is it a Smallfoot question?
I mean, I guess it could be if you have small feet.
We've all been identified. Smaller than Bigfoot.
Bigger than Smallfoot?
Bigger than Smallfoot.
Yep, makes sense. So, do you consider playing Fortnite a career? Or can it be a career choice? Or we could just make it any video game.
These days,
I asked this because he wrote it on his kid's lunch. I was doing some, Facebook stalking for him coming on the podcast, and he wrote it on the lunchbox.
There's video game testers out there that play video games for a career, trying to find bugs within them. I don't know. It's one of those weird things, right? I mean, that video game world, I know a lot of programmers that would love to be in it. I know a lot of graphic artists that would love to be in it, but it's really the upper 1% to 2% of that population ever get the opportunity to really, truly, quote-unquote, play/work.
But I'm talking like somebody that plays them on like Twitch as a living. Like people watch them play video games.
I mean, I can't talk to Fortnite directly because I've never played it and I don't know enough about it. But when I was a young man, I mean, they have video game competitions. I mean, and you can win money. I mean, so in theory, you can get sponsored, I guess. I mean, if there's a way to win money or to earn money, it's no different than any other competitive sport. It's just competitive mind games at that point, I would imagine.
Well, yeah, I think it's just who's got the better. I mean, whether you want to call it a skill or not, it's a skill, and so who's got the better skill when it comes to playing these video games? And I think the key to the statement is career, because how long do you consider a career? But
you got to figure the other thing here that we're dealing with is a lot of this is addiction driven, in my opinion. I mean, these games are wildly addictive, both from a
video
social aspect,
general,
from a competition aspect, from a curiosity aspect. Just like Facebook and all these other solutions, it's wildly addictive. So if a company's willing to put the money behind it, I absolutely think it could become career. I mean, take a look. I mean, I'll give you a good example, right? Red Bull. Mm-hmm. Right? Red Bull does these contests with all this stupid stuff. Jumping off the buildings and jumping into the lake and building your own, device to whatever
flying
it is.
Device, yeah, that they take off.
But they come up with these like the most wild cockamamie ideas that you would never think possible, but it generates press. Mm-hmm. And I think if a company or an individual is willing to get behind it and put that type of dollar on it, then yeah, people could make a lot of money doing it.
Well, and there's people that do. You talk about the kid, like, again, Fortnite's a little behind my time. I don't have a lot of time for video games anymore. I just know that that's what all the kids and all the parents and all the dance moves and everything that came from it. But I know some of the people on the Twitch platform. So Twitch is a platform that you can go on, and it's essentially like YouTube for gamers, and you can go on and watch your favorite person play video games. Like, if we got popular enough, and it's like, because Barstool Sports... When? Okay, when?
When? Positive.
Barstool Sports does that all the time. They have a room with their guys with these recliners in it, and they have a Twitch feed that they do, and they'll jump on and they'll play video games, and people get to watch them, and I guess people like to watch them interact, and people can donate money and do all that, but you get a certain amount of money per subscriber. And Ninja, the kid that everyone talks about that they know about within Fortnite, was making, $4 million a year or something like that off of his Twitch with the amount of subscribers that he had. And that was just off of his Twitch account, not off of sponsorships, not off of wearing something or shouting out something, all the other stuff. Like, this kid's making more money than some people make in a year doing that.
So let me ask you this. So if you had to pick a video game that you could make money on, what would it be? Like, if you had to hang up being a chiropractor, you had to hang up the podcast.
I got the opportunity.
The opportunity came up, and they said, Brandon Brown, we're looking for you. We need someone to do a series or whatever it is on this video game. You're going to be the expert, and we're going to pay you an ass ton of money. What would it be?
Man, the problem for me is video games get very old, and once I'm not saying that you
would
master
it get
them.
Old? So knowing what you know now, let's just take like a game like Super Mario Brothers, right? Would it get old if you were knocking down $400,000, $500,000, $700,000 a year?
After a certain period of time,
to stay
yes.
Interested?
After a certain period of time, yes. Like, listen, everyone always talks about this. believe me, I run a business and I do whatever, obviously to serve people, but also I do that to make money so I can provide for my family. And at some point, it's not the money that's bringing me the happiness. So if I'm sitting there mindlessly playing this game and like, listen, that's the thing is these kids get on a game and then another game becomes popular and then they just start streaming that. They build an audience.
Yeah, but I mean, like, this is like in when I was a young boy, I mean, SimCity was one of those where you're sitting there, you're creating, you're building, very similar to Fortnite from as I understand it. But it gets
very different, but yeah.
But it just
which you could create,
I mean, you look up and 8 hours passed. It's gone.
I would have to say a sports game, so I would have to say something like Madden or some NBA, whatever. Like it would have to be something like that where it at least, you know, you feel like you're being an athlete even though that you're not.
Something where it was competitive, not against necessarily the clock, but against anyone come up and try and beat me. Yeah, I'm the king.
Because I went through a period where I got nostalgic with Super Mario, because that's, you know, with the original Mario Brothers, because that's what I grew up on. That's what my grandma had at her house. She had that and Atari, so I grew up on the old school. And I got nostalgic a couple of years ago, and I told my parents, I was like, that's what I wanted for Christmas, was like, give me a Nintendo, get me and, you know, takes a couple times and you're like, I'm kind of overplaying this. I need a break.
I'm not getting anywhere. I need to stop.
Yeah. It's like, okay, I've made it to this point 5 times. I keep whatever. This is what happened. It's like, I need to go do something else. And for me, I just know in my own head, I'm sure it's for you the same way. I have to be challenged. Like, why am I doing this? What's the purpose? What's the goal for this? And if it's like, hey, I'm buckling down, I'm going to do this for a year. I'm going to make, 5 to 10 mil and then whatever, and then it's like move on to the next thing. I could see that, but like, hey, you're getting locked in. It's like I better be able to have just enough variance in there where like, oh, I'm playing a different team, or I can pick a different team, or I can do whatever. Yeah, and I can start challenging other people, and maybe I can do like they do with the headsets.
Yeah, we're playing people online, so it's constantly changing.
So it changes. Right. You could talk shit to other people.
So
you
the
can do all that
variables
stuff.
are just huge.
Yeah.
So it would be like, what would yours be then? Since we know you're gonna pick some old school
game, it'd be like Contra or something. Like
that, dude. Dig Dug. We'll play a little Dig Dug action here.
It'd be like I'll take some people. You'd have like a week of work.
I love Dig Dug. Yeah, but you just keep playing. It's like, all right, let's go. I go, you go. We'll just see what happens. Like he said, you just vary it up. But I'm just fascinated in a world where I try to. And I think I'm kind of stuck in between some generations sometimes with like where my age is, and so I see people that are like so locked in. They're like, you can't make a living playing video games, because I grew up in that day and age, and now there's kids younger than me making way more money than me playing video games.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've always been of the mindset of if you're really good at something, you can make money doing it, and it can be anything. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. If you're really good at cutting hair, you can make a fuck ton of money cutting hair. If you're really good at changing oil, you can make a lot of money changing oil. I mean, and there's no downside to it, in my opinion. I mean, I don't look at that negatively. I mean, I think if you're really good at something, do it, master it, and expose it. And that's kind of why we do a lot of what we do. I mean, and you do what you do. I mean, It's like you're really good at that, and excel at it, and it doesn't matter whether you're painting cars or breaking necks or whatever the case may be. It's
thank goodness you come see me, so I think people know that's a joke, but it does continue to be the carried over joke. Can't wait till we get Casey on here for that. You'll just be stuck in the middle of that sandwich.
Whatever, it'll be okay.
I'll be interested to see what questions you have for him.
I'm like the cream. I'm like the cream in the middle of the Oreo. You know what I mean? I'm the part everybody likes.
I can't wait for you to see what questions you have for him, because you could just ask from like, I'll stay out of it. You just ask him.
So do you bend your clients over the table as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like those? Yeah.
I mean, listen, you can have whatever. We just gained a new follower while we're on here. So thank you to whoever just jumped on the Don't Be So Brewed family. We're glad to have you join us. All right, Scott.
All right, Brandon. I like these. These are good.
Yeah, well, this one's kind of funny. We'll see what happens. I literally just grabbed this because before we started the podcast, Scott forgot that we grabbed beer on the way here, and as he was sliding out to get out of the table, he hit his knee on the table, which we've been known for doing. Twice. And when he came back, he hit it again. And I said, well, you'd think you'd learn your lesson the first time.
You'd think.
But we don't. So I'm interested. Do you have an experience that you can think of where you're like, why didn't I learn my lesson the first time? Especially with all this, back in your day, with all this life.
Back in my day, let me tell you what happened, boys.
Life experience.
Let me tell you what's going on here. So, it's actually a major pet peeve of mine. Okay? I'm okay with people making mistakes, but I'm not okay with it happening twice or more. So you make the mistake, learn from it, and grow.
So you're talking if someone works for you and they keep making the same mistake, it like pisses you off.
But myself included. Don't do that. And you keep doing it, we're done. I mean, I'm over it. I can't get through it. I've told you X number of times, you're not learning, which means you're not capable of growth, which means this isn't going to work out, right? But for myself, I hold myself at that same level. So usually when I'm having those types of issues, it's because I'm really tired or I'm overtired or just not thinking, and especially with the laser engraving is a prime example, right? I mean, this is the kind of stuff you get expensive items and you want to nail it right every single time.
Of course.
Right? And when you don't, it's a fuck up. If I fuck up something that somebody brought in, we classify that as a major fuck up.
Because then you have to replace that item.
Or sometimes it's not replaceable. So you could have all the waivers in the world, but no matter what, that person's not going to be happy. Right? So you got to do whatever you got to do to try and make that person happy. If I supply the product and I fuck up, the only person unhappy is me because I got to buy another one. Client never knows. But there's sometimes, even on this here, right? I mean, if I engrave it this way, the logo's got to be a certain way. If I engrave it this way, it's flipped 180 degrees. Sometimes you're just not thinking.
When you put the thing in or when you do whatever, you're like, we engraved that. It looks really nice, but it's upside down.
That's exactly right. And it happens.
Yeah,
it
as they
happens.
drink it.
You get tired, even on the device. We were trained in Germany on how to use the laser, and there's this little joystick, and if you flick it, it switches the job. But you'd never know if you never used it before, right?
Damn. Yep.
So it switched the job. It was on a Yeti cup. The Yeti cups are stupid expensive, and it's just But the thing it does is it reminds me, it reminds him, it reminds everyone else that works on the machine that, hey, be conscious that this thing needs to be very, don't touch that once you're running your jobs through.
Well, and it's like you said, that's a system and a process thing. Obviously,
it is.
What we do, you have to have those things, and so it's
even your kid, man, if they keep making the same mistake. Now, Remy's young, right? So there's not a whole lot you could do there, right? But
yeah, she's gonna keep making that for a while until she.
But even if the kids are they're figuring it out, right? So when she learned to walk, she kept trying, right, and doing different things till she finally kind of figured it out. I could live with that, right? If the kid keeps running into the brick wall constantly, and you're like, look, dude, don't run into the brick wall. You're going to keep getting hurt. But they keep doing it. I can't deal with that. I feel like you're out.
I think mine is just you almost said, even with yourself. I'm I think if I was going to reflect on mine, it would be a lesson that I learned for myself that I think I keep learning over and over. I'm sure that's just part of human nature, is knowing how I am with certain things. If I don't like doing something, then that thing gets put off until the point that it stacks up, and then I'm
So it's procrastination.
Yes. So if you want the best example, this was probably one of the most stressful times of my life. I was in chiropractic school, and I was taking a class called pathology. And if you know anything about what I do, when have I ever talked to you about pathology or knowing diseases and their processes and where they come from or any of that stuff? And most people would be like, you're a chiropractor, you learned that? And I'm like, yeah, dumbass, we learned that stuff in school too. I am a doctor. I always jokingly do this thing. I get it.
He's a der.
Yeah. But exactly. But even watching how sometimes they go down processes and they start saying things, and I'll finish the sentence before he does. They can keep laughing. I'll keep telling the story. And I'll literally sit there and I name this off, and somebody will be like, how did you know that? And I'm like, we had to learn that stuff in school. So for me,
you're good.
I'm trying to figure out I'm trying to figure out if he's trying to sneak up on me over here.
No, you're safe.
So
you don't want that fight.
I came into pathology with here's the problem, and I think we've talked about this. If I don't understand, I think we mentioned it earlier in the show. If I don't understand why I'm doing this or why I need it, then it's hard to convince me to do it because you can't explain to me why I need this. Now,
like, Mr. Brown, you want to be a DER?
Yeah,
you
it's
got to
like,
take pathology.
would you like to be able to take your national boards and also pass this class so you can continue moving through the program? You have to pass this class. Well, sometimes for me, I get very much in the, why am I going to need this? F you guys, I'm going to do whatever I need to do in order to just get by. And so that was kind of how I treated that class. I'm like, this is stupid. I don't need this. And so I think it was my third test rolls around in that class, and I'm not doing super well in that one. Like, listen, there's classes that I'm like, I know I got to focus on this. I know I got to know my stuff, and I have like an A and B.
You're like, I'm about spreading disease. I'm not about understanding where it comes from.
No, God, no. And so, and listen, I love this. This is one of the coolest stories for me of like, hey, if I'll apply myself, there's like two sides to this. But I went in and I took my third test, and I think I got like a 50 something on it.
9 out of 50.
Yeah, like I got a 50 something, like 56.
You should have wrote your name on top.
It doesn't work like that. Well, and this teacher, she'll never see this, but she might. She's an a-hole. She would do is it A, B, C, A and B, B and C, all of the above, none of the above. Those were the options on almost every single answer on her test. So it's like, is it A? And with disease processes, listen, there's things that double link up. There's multiple things that you have to know. It's not just like A goes to B and this is my connection. This is how I remember
man,
it.
if you want to be a DER, you got to know this stuff. I mean, we as the public expect you to do very good in pathology and whatever other classes
you'll love
take.
You'll love it then. So basically, when this happens, I'm like, okay, we have like one more quiz and we have the final, and the final's worth like
80% of your grade.
No, it's worth like 10%. If it was worth 80%, I could have pulled myself out, no problem. It was worth like 15%.
You had trouble pulling out.
Yeah, so it's hard to. Yeah,
yes,
it's very hard. It's just hard.
Yeah.
To pull that out in order to make it, it's just hard to achieve that,
Yeah, I get it.
You know what I mean?
Completely.
Okay. Now that we've let that hang there for a minute. So I look at my grade like, what do I have to make on my final in order to pass this class, in order to get a 70? And I had to make like 100. And I was like, okay, looks like I'm going to have to make 100 on the final then. Never done that before. Haven't even really prepared myself in this class. Sure. Well, she gave us a bonus. She gave us a quiz. She gave us a bonus quiz, and she dropped something. So by the time she worked all that stuff out and we did everything, I had to make a 92 or something on my final.
Okay.
And so I'm like, okay. Well, the way finals week works is we have
so
tests
we're gonna
for
learn pathology.
Yep. So I get a hold of my buddy Joey, who's I study with.
Hang on, this is a 92 to get a C.
Yeah, this is to pass. This is to get a 70 in the class, 69.5, which essentially rounds up and gets you to passing. So my buddy Joey that I always study with, we were study partners, he was like, all right, man, I'm going to help you. We're going to learn this. And so basically during finals week, I have like 6 other classes I'm taking. So I have 6 other finals that week. Well, I check all my other grades and I'm like, I'm good in all these classes. If I bomb all these finals, I'll still be okay. So essentially, I have every single thing that I need to know, every test that's ever been, like every single thing that I can know, and we just start going through segment by segment of this class of me just like, all right, I'm going to make sure I go over all this. Joy's quizzing me, we move on to the next thing, I'm like making sure, and then there's the last section that we haven't gone over a lot in class that I'm like, she hasn't really taught us a lot about this, I'm a little worried about that because this is newer information. Like some of this other stuff, I kind of applied it, but now I know it better. And I would literally go into a final. Joey, what final are we taking? We're taking public health. Cool. Come in, take that one, give the teacher the test, walk out. I'm studying pathology. Studying pathology all night, go to sleep, wake up, studying pathology, go in, take a test. What are we taking? We're taking anatomy. Cool. Take that test. And I'm literally just everything that I'm focused on is that. I'm in that teacher's office every single day. I'm like, hey, I got 3 questions. She's like, okay. There would be, and when I need to get something done, I'm that person. I'll be annoying. And so there'd be people in there asking questions. I'd be like, I'd explain the answer. And then she'd be like, well, he just answered the question. That's what you need to know. And I was like, all right, good. I'm on the right track here. And so to the point of annoyance, I'm just like making sure I know every single thing.
So did you get a pity pass? Is that what happened?
No,
she
I
didn't
didn't
want you coming back.
No, she was. So basically, what happened? I went in to take the final. I went through the test.
I can't deal with this. This dude's gonna pass no matter what.
Well, it may have been that, and I don't care. So, and I like went crazy about this. Like, I wrote pathology final 90, 96 or 98 or whatever it was. Like, everywhere. It was all over my whiteboard. It was all over my notes. Like, in my head, I was
trying to manifest.
I was going to manifest this grade. Like, because what happens is when you fail, you fall behind, and it was all this stuff. And like, I wanted to stay with my classmates that I had this whole time. I didn't want to fall back.
Right.
So, I go in. I go through the test. I'm taking the test. If I know it, I know it. If I don't, I just like go back over it. I had like 3 or 4 questions, went back through them. Okay, I was overthinking that one. Whatever it was, turn it in. My buddy's like, how do you feel? I'm like, I think I did what I needed to do. If I didn't, I learned my lesson. I had to.
So what did you get?
I got a 96.
All right.
Yeah. Got a 96. I ended up with like a 71 in the class. So like did great, ended up jumping my grade up and up. And I emailed the teacher and I was like, hey, thank you so much for your help. I really appreciate it. I thank you for all this.
Asshole.
And I think she never emailed me back. And I think it was because she was like, how in the did he do that? Because I'm talking, my grade was like whatever it was. It was horrible. She's like, he didn't know anything about this, and he just aced the final. How did he pull that? And I'm like, because you're all I focused on for a week and a half.
I actually started paying attention to your topic.
Yeah, I'm like, I actually started really studying this and applying myself, and it's fascinating. When I applied myself, I became successful. It's crazy. And the same thing has happened in my business. I go through these periods where I get comfortable, and I back off of certain things.
You can't.
And then I have to switch that and shift that. That's actually my screensaver on my phone, literally, is a picture of my family. And it says, don't get comfortable.
Well, it's
seriously, that's what it says, because I tend to do that. And so it was like a mantra for me recently. And I'm like, that's what I do is I just like, I can't get comfortable when it comes to stuff like that because it starts to affect my business and then I stress out and then it affects my family.
It affects everything. And the thing is, like,
I didn't know we were going to get into this.
Being a small business owner, it's like
that.
Dude, I mean, it's like the definition of quadrupolar, I mean, there's bipolar, which is tough to handle. There's tripolar, which I think I invented, which is even more intense. And then there's like quadpolar. And if you're quadpolar, you're pretty much a business owner.
Pretty much.
That's just how it goes.
If you've never, you should look up a day in the life of an entrepreneur. There's like a meme that goes around and it's literally like this scale and it like jumps all over the place and it's like, I'm doing it. Oh my gosh, I'm not doing it. Okay, it's starting to get better. Oh my gosh, I totally screwed this up. And it's just like this constant
but
up
it
and
is.
down.
It's like,
and that's what
everything
it is.
is awesome. And then you're like, the sky is falling.
And listen, we know because this is half of our conversations on the way to the podcast half the time or whenever Scott and I talk, I'm like, it'll be like, hey man, how'd this week go? And I'm like, well, to be honest, this didn't happen. This thing got delayed. Didn't have a lot of new people coming in, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, how's it going? And he's like, well, we had all these jobs come in and now those jobs are gone. And so we're like, what do we do now?
We got to get more jobs. We're working on it.
And so that's the stuff that happens. That's the life. These are the things that we deal with. And that's.
But it's rough. And you know what? I'll tell all you guys out there and gals, it's normal.
That's life.
This is not it's not just you. It's everyone. We all feel that way. And we've got to support each other.
That's right.
That's part of what this podcast is all about.
And in the note of supporting one another, I'm just going to make this announcement so we can close out and hit this thing right. We want to thank you guys for liking, commenting, subscribing on our podcast, going to the Don't Be So Brewed page, going to our Instagram page, going on all of our pages. We'd love for you to leave us a review. Let us know what you guys think. We love your feedback. And remember, go to Independence Brewing Company, like their page, leave them a review, and tell them that the Don't Be So Brewed podcast sent you.
Yes.
All right, Scott. It's time for your final thoughts.
Final thoughts?
Yeah.
Dad joke.
Ooh, dad joke.
All right. My wife is really mad at the fact that I have no sense of direction. So I packed up my stuff and write.
I'm Dr. Brandon Brown, and I approve this message.
Yes, he does.
Phenomena. Phenomena.